Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're going to be talking all about shopping. And you know what? I'm actually kind of excited about this one. We're going to be going way beyond just adding things to our cart, and really looking into how our shopping habits have, well, morphed, I guess you could say, and what that says about us as people.
Mm-hmm.
You sent over some really interesting sources for this episode, especially about how this topic pops up on the IELTS.
Yeah,
So are you ready to unlock some shopping secrets today?
absolutely. It's really fascinating to me how much we actually reveal about ourselves through the choices we make when we're shopping.
Right. And it's not just about what we're buying, is it? I mean, we've all seen how the whole landscape of shopping has completely shifted. Like, just think back a few years ago. Online shopping was still like this novelty. And now it's basically how everyone functions.
It really is the norm now for a lot of people, especially, younger generations. And I think what's so interesting is that this shift isn't just about convenience. It actually reflects some much deeper changes, I think, in our values and priorities.
Okay, I like that. So let's unpack that a little bit. What kind of values are we talking about here?
Well, just consider like the rise of fast fashion. I think that's a perfect example of how online shopping has really enabled us to prioritize speed and affordability over, say, quality and sustainability.
Oh, that's such a good point. It's like we're almost conditioned now to expect instant gratification in everything, like both in terms of how quickly things are delivered to us, but also just in terms of how quickly trends change.
Exactly. And yet, at the same time, we're also seeing a growing awareness now of the ethical implications,
Yeah.
right? Of fast fashion and things like that. There's definitely a push towards, what people are calling conscious consumption now, with shoppers really seeking out brands that align with their own values, whether that's sustainability or fair labor practices or local production.
So it's almost like a pendulum swing, right? Like we went all in on convenience, and now we're realizing, hey, wait a minute, maybe there's some trade-offs here that we didn't really consider.
Precisely. And that tension that you're talking about between convenience and conscious consumption, I think that's really what's at the heart of the current shopping landscape. It's
Yeah.
something that actually comes up pretty often in IELTS discussions as well.
Oh, really? That makes sense, I guess.
Yeah.
Because if you're asked about, like, your shopping habits on the IELTS, it's really a chance for you to show that you understand, these complexities. It's not just about listing off your favorite stores.
Exactly. For example, you could talk about how you personally try to balance, convenience with those ethical considerations that we were talking about. Like maybe you prioritize online shopping for your everyday items, but you make a conscious effort to shop locally for like special occasions or something like that.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah.
It's about showing that you have, like, a nuanced understanding of the topic.
Exactly. And it's important to remember that the IELTS speaking test isn't just about vocabulary. It's about demonstrating your ability to communicate effectively. And that means being able to articulate your thoughts clearly, using a range of grammar structures, and connecting your ideas smoothly.
So it's more like having a real conversation and less like, a robotic recitation of memorized phrases.
Exactly. And, if you can weave in like some specific examples and personal anecdotes, it'll make your response even more engaging and memorable for the examiner.
So, like, instead of just saying, I prefer shopping online because it's convenient, you could, like, tell a quick story about a time that you found a really unique item at a local market or something.
Absolutely. It adds that personal touch and it shows that you can apply the language, in a real world context. And here's another tip for a high scoring answer. Consider like contrast and ideas. So you could acknowledge the convenience of online shopping, but then contrast it with like the social experience of shopping with friends or family.
Ah, so it's about showcasing that range of vocabulary and grammar, like you said.
Exactly. And it also demonstrates critical thinking. You're not just state a preference, you're actually exploring different perspectives on the topic.
I'm already seeing how these IELTS insights can help anyone become, like, a more thoughtful shopper, regardless of whether they're actually taking the test or not, really.
Absolutely. It's about understanding the forces that shape our shopping habits and becoming, more conscious consumers.
Oh, speaking of forces, we can't forget the influence of culture, right? I know one of the sources that you sent over mentioned how even with the rise of these global online marketplaces, cultural events like Diwali or Christmas still drive people back to traditional markets.
Yeah, it's fascinating, isn't it? Even in this like digital age, certain traditions still have this power to bring people together for that shade shopping experience.
It's like those events tap into something deeper, like a sense of community and connection that goes beyond just buying stuff?
Precisely. And that's actually where we'll pick up in part 2 of this deep dive. We'll be exploring how that cultural context shapes not only what we buy, but also the entire shopping
Oh,
experience.
I can't wait. This is getting good. Welcome back to the deep dive. Last time we were talking about how cultural events can pull people back to those in-person shopping experiences.
Mm-hmm. And it's not just about special occasions, is it? Culture really influences like every aspect of shopping, I think, from what we buy to even like how we negotiate prices and things.
Okay, I like that.
Yeah.
So can you give me an example? Like, how does culture actually play out in a real shopping interaction?
Well, imagine like you're at a really busy market in Morocco, right? Haggling there isn't just expected, it's like an art form. It's a way to build rapport with the seller.
So it's about more than just getting a good deal. It's about that social interaction too.
Exactly. Now picture yourself in like a department store in Sweden. Okay. Haggling there would probably be met with a lot of confusion. Maybe even, offense. Like the price is the price. And there's a strong emphasis on fairness and transparency there.
Wow, that's such a stark contrast. It makes you realize how deeply ingrained these cultural norms really are.
Yeah, it is. And it goes beyond just haggling too. Think about gift giving, right?
Hmm?
In some cultures, like Japan, for instance, gifts are incredibly symbolic. You
Yeah.
know, they're meticulously chosen, beautifully wrapped. There's a whole etiquette around it.
Whereas in other places, it's much more about practicality, right?
Yeah.
Like, here's a gift card, go get what you want.
Exactly. And even like the way that we physically shop can be culturally influenced too. In some collectivist cultures, shopping is very much a group activity. It's a chance to connect with like your friends and family.
Oh, yeah, I can totally see that. It becomes more of an out and like a social event rather than just something to check off your to-do list.
Right. But in more individualistic cultures, shopping can be like a solitary pursuit,
Mhm.
a time for personal reflection and decision making.
This is fascinating. I wonder if those differences stem from some kind of deeper cultural values.
No, absolutely. Like take sustainability, for
Yeah,
example.
yeah.
In cultures where environmental awareness is already deeply ingrained, you might see a much stronger emphasis on like buying locally sourced products or opt in for reusable packaging and things like that.
So those values
Hmm.
like translate directly into people's shopping choices, basically.
Yeah.
It's not just about following trends. It's about aligning your spending with what's actually important to you.
Exactly. And, it's also important to remember that these cultural influences aren't static. They definitely evolve over time.
Mm.
I mean, think about how, like, social media and influencer culture are really shaping shopping habits globally,
Mhm.
especially among those younger generations that we were talking about before.
It's like a whole new layer of cultural influence, right?
Uh-huh.
We're seeing trends go viral in like a matter of hours, and suddenly everyone wants to be a part of it.
It's true. And, while that can definitely lead to some impulse purchases and, a focus on those really fleeting trends, I think it can also be a force for good in a lot of ways. Like we're seeing social media being used now to promote ethical brands and raise awareness about some really important issues like, the impact of fast fashion on the environment.
So it's kind of like a double-edged sword then.
Yeah.
Amplify like both positive and negative shopping behaviors.
Exactly. And it's a dynamic that we all need to be aware of as we kind of navigate, this increasingly complex world of shopping. But I guess despite all of these cultural differences, do you think there are any like universal truths about shopping? Something that kind of connects us all as consumers?
That's a great question because on the surface, it really does seem like cultures are worlds apart when it comes to shopping.
Hmm. They really are in a lot of ways. But at the core, I think shopping definitely taps into some pretty fundamental human desires, wouldn't you say? Like the desire for novelty, for instance. We're constantly seeking out new experiences, new possessions, new ways to kind of express
Oh,
ourselves.
totally. Like it's that thrill of the hunt, right? That feeling of finding something unique or special that nobody else has.
Exactly. And shopping can also satisfy our need for like belonging. Think about how certain brands become status symbols, right? Almost like a way to signal membership in a particular group or tribe.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Like wearing a certain brand of sneakers or carrying like a designer handbag. It's about way more than just the item itself. It's about what it represents to other people.
Precisely. And let's not forget about the emotional aspect of shopping either, right? Whether it's the joy of, finding the perfect outfit or just the satisfaction of snagging a great deal. Shopping can definitely trigger a whole range of emotions.
It's totally a mood booster. I know I've definitely had those retail therapy moments, you know, where a new purchase can really lift my spirits.
We all have. And I think understanding those emotional triggers is key to, becoming more conscious consumers. Because when we're more aware of how our emotions influence our shopping choices, we're less likely to fall prey to, impulse purchases or marketing tactics that are specifically designed to exploit those feelings.
So it's about being in control of our shopping habits, basically, rather than letting them control us.
Exactly. And that actually brings us to another really crucial aspect of shopping in the modern world, sustainability. You know, as we become more and more aware of the environmental and social impact of all of our consumption, it's not really enough anymore to just focus on our own personal satisfaction. We really need to start considering the bigger picture.
That's a good point. It's like we're shifting from like me to we, thinking about the collective impact of our shopping choices, right?
Precisely. And that's where we'll pick up in part 3 of this deep dive. We'll be exploring what it actually means to be a sustainable shopper in today's world.
I can't wait to delve into that.
Hmm.
Because, let's be honest, we all want to feel good about our purchases, right? Not just in the moment, but, in the long run, too.
Welcome back to the deep dive. So, we've talked about how shopping has evolved, we've explored all the cultural nuances, and now we're here at what might be the most important stop on this whole journey: sustainable shopping.
It really is more than just a trend at this point, I think. It's a necessity. We have, as consumers, incredible power to actually influence the market. And like with that power comes, a lot of responsibility too.
Okay, but I gotta be honest with you. Sometimes this whole sustainable shopping thing can feel kind of overwhelming. Like, where do you even begin? Does every single purchase need to be, like, perfectly ethical? That's a really common misconception, I think. It's not about being perfect, It's about progress. Like, start by just asking yourself a few simple questions before you buy anything. Like, do I actually need this? Could I maybe borrow it from someone or rent it? Is this item built to last? Things like that.
So it's more about being mindful, not necessarily depriving yourself of things.
Exactly. And then, once you've done that, you can start looking deeper. Like, check those labels, Look for certifications, like fair trade or organic or recycled content. It might take a little extra effort, but it sends a really powerful message to brands that consumers actually care about this stuff.
It's like voting with your wallet,
Yeah.
right? Supporting the companies that align with your own values.
Exactly. And don't underestimate the power of buying local either. Supporting local businesses often means shorter supply chains, which can really help to reduce your carbon footprint. Plus, you're directly contributing to your community's economy when you do that.
Yeah, there's something really satisfying about knowing that your purchase is making a tangible difference, like you said.
Absolutely. And here's another thing to think about. Consider the life cycle of a product. Like, what happens to this thing when you're done with it? Can it be repaired? Can it be repurposed? Is it biodegradable?
Oh, that's interesting. So it's not just about where something comes from, but where it ends up, too.
Exactly. We're so used to this throwaway culture, but embracing what's called a circular economy, where products are actually designed to be reused or recycled, I think that's going to be crucial for a sustainable future.
This all makes so much sense. But I got to admit, sometimes I feel like my individual choices are just like a drop in the ocean.
I totally understand that feeling, but remember, every drop counts. And beyond our individual actions, I think we can also amplify our impact by advocating for, like, systemic change, Support policies that promote ethical production, hold corporations accountable, make sustainable choices the easier choice for everybody.
So it's about using our voices to demand better from the companies that we support.
Precisely. And, sustainable shopping shouldn't be about guilt or deprivation, It's about aligning your spending with your values. It's about finding joy in purchases that are good for you and good for the planet and good for the people who actually made them.
Wow, this has been such an insightful deep dive. We've gone from exploring how shopping has evolved over time to delving into all the cultural nuances to now I feel like we're armed with so much knowledge to go out and make more conscious choices about the things that we buy.
Absolutely. And remember, it's a journey. It's not a destination. Every step towards sustainability, no matter how small, really does make a difference.
So true. Well, thanks for joining us on this deep dive into shopping habits. Until next time, happy shopping, everyone.